Hello. Oh, hello. Welcome, everyone. If you're able to join, say hi. Let me know that you're watching, crafting, or catching this on the replay. So if this is their first time watching a video, my name's Birdie. Welcome to Mini Make It series. I'm so glad you joined. We are going live today in the group to do our January insert. So this is a Valentine insert. I'm going to try and keep the holidays ahead of the month, or the month ahead, so that way you have time to craft and then still display it for the following month. So next month is February, excuse me, and that's Valentine's Day. So we are doing a cute little Valentine's insert. Let me grab my sample. So we've got this little basket of fun sweets for my sweet. That's the theme of this one. And that's what it looks like when we've got our little insert. So now this month, I do want to point out two things before we get started. There are two hearts that I glued on the back versus on the front. I wanted these to kind of sit behind and give me a layer in the back, so a little more dimension to the back side. These two hearts could really be glued anywhere. You could glue them kind of sitting here down on the end like they're tucked into the basket. They could get right up in here, maybe one up here on top of the letter, even one right here. However you want to do that, but these two are floaters and don't have a spot on the base that shows the guidelines. So I want to keep that. The second thing is the chocolate on the strawberries here lays over the flap of the basket. Again, giving us that really great dimension, the 3D dimension, that the strawberries are kind of sitting on top and are even falling in front of the basket. So let me show you the back of that. So the bottom edge of, the bottom edge of the basket sits here. And then the strawberries, the chocolate part of the strawberry sits down below that. So when you go to insert it, they're going to sit over that rim. Okay. Just wanted to point those out real quick in case you're just hopping on to see supplies and some quick tips and tricks. And then getting out and getting painted. Those are the two things that I wanted to make note of. So for those of you that got paint packs, I did throw in a light pink, just to give you a little flexibility or options when painting your sign. So let's just take a look. Let's lay out these pieces here to make sure that you have all your pieces. I'm going to just pull these off and lay them out before we get started painting. So you've got your base here. You've got your strawberries, the back side of the strawberries, the actual strawberry part. The two greeneries that sit on top of the strawberry. You've got the strawberry chocolate. And then we have the bottom part of the cupcake rim, or I consider this the part of the cupcake you see between the liner and the frosting. Okay, and then you've got your frosting and then a heart that sits on top of the frosting. Then for these three chocolate pieces or hearts here, this heart sits on this one here. On top of the envelope, we have a small little heart. You have a heart that is your tag. The 2 floating hearts that can get really placed wherever you want. And then the box of chocolates that is shaped like a heart. So you've got this outer piece, the lace piece part of the chocolate box, and then the box itself, and then the ribbon on top of that. Okay, so those are all the pieces that you have. I think it's 17. Let me just count real quick. 1, 2, 3. Yep, 17 pieces you should have in your box. Let's get everything out. I have you for 30 minutes. All right, so what I'm going to do is, and how I typically tackle any of my DIY kits that I'm painting is, I will paint all my pieces with the colors. I'll put a first coat on everything, and then I go back with a second coat. So I'm going to just get all my colors out here and get started painting those. Let's see. So on the base, we have our envelope here, and that's going to be white in my case. So we're just going to tap, tap. Now there is this score marks that is giving us the details with this. So I do recommend using a makeup wedge for this, even though it is a larger piece that's not as detailed. And you could use a brush here. Because of all of the score marks, a makeup wedge is perfect for keeping those score marks clean. And I'll show you that here in just a minute. If you're using just a small amount of paint, typically that paint stays out of the score marks unless you press really heavy and are really pressing that paint down into the score marks. If you accidentally get some paint down in there, like I have some paint right in here, I'm going to use this piercing tool to clean out those score marks and just give that definition back, get that definition back. I'm not going to do it to the stitch marks along the edge. That's a little more detailed than I want to try and scrape out, but I do want to see these lines here on the envelope. Okay, so the other thing then that I have white is the stripes on my cupcake liner. And instead of trying to paint in the individual stripes to start with, I'm just going to paint the whole thing white, and then I can come back and just use a small brush for the red stripes. Sometimes when painting stripes, it's a little easier to just paint the entire thing one color and then come back with the detail brush to paint the stripes instead of having to paint the detail lines for all the colors, if that makes sense. It just eliminates the fact that we have to use a detail brush twice, right? We're just painting it messily, I guess, with the makeup wedge once. And then we'll come back with a detail brush to paint the red stripes. All right. So as I'm going, I'm just going to start taping my pieces here. I just tap, tap, tap. White is a color that you will need multiple coats. So don't forget, light coats. Multiple light coats is better than one big, fat, heavy, thick coat. Your finish will be a lot more smoother and cleaner, and it actually dries faster that way. So I usually am pretty quick on this coat because I know it's just kind of my primer coat, if you would. It's just getting that base coat down. I'm not concerned about it looking splotchy or anything. You can kind of see the splotchiness on my bow. That's all right. We're just going to move on. All right, so then I'm going to get another piece of tape for all of my chocolate bits that I want chocolate, which are my hearts here, my chocolate strawberries. I'm using this, I'm painting this little piece chocolate because in my case I want a chocolate cupcake. That's my favorite. And then I'm going to do a stain look on my tag. Okay, so let's do our chocolate bits here. Okay. Remember, with the score marks, you can paint right over them and you'll still see them. It does take quite a lot of paint to fill those score marks. I would just recommend staining it or just leaving it the natural color. Okay? All right, so that is done. Let's do our green. Where are we at on time? 11 minutes. And then let's do the red bits. Okay, so we have a lot of little detail here with the cupcake sprinkles. We're just going to paint right over that, guys, and then we'll come in with a detail brush to add color to that. So on the strawberries, this bottom set of squiggly lines that is covering the bottom part of the strawberries, that's kind of showing you where the chocolate is, so don't feel like you have to paint that area. Then the top here, where the outline of the stems are, don't feel like you have to paint that either. I kind of just overlap those lines just to make sure that I've got the strawberry completely covered where we're going to see it. On bigger pieces like this, when I already have a makeup wedge with the color I want, I could easily just change to a brush and paint this heart, but I already have the red on this makeup wedge, so I use the makeup wedge like a brush and I just brush that paint around instead of doing a tap tap. It's a little bit faster when you're working with bigger pieces like that. Okay. So there is a part on the base that still needs to be painted now that that's dry. Are these two hearts that we see at the bottom of our stack of sweets. So we're going to come in here. And I'm just going to paint my little tab here as well, just in case we see that kind of peeking out of the base a little bit. Remember, this heart is going to be covered up with a separate piece, so just kind of go into it a little bit. We're coloring outside of the lines, if you would, on these pieces, just to ensure that they all get painted. So there we go. So everything has been painted now. I'm just going to attach that there so I don't lose it. And then we're going to go back to the beginning and we're going to sand and then we're going to paint our second coat. Now remember, sanding isn't necessary. If your piece feels smooth after painting it, it means that the fibers didn't stand up when applying the paint. But most of the time after painting a piece, it's going to have a little bit of a rough texture. And that's just where the fibers of the wood have reacted to the water in the paint or the liquid in the paint, and they expand and they stand up. So just a very light sanding is all you need to get that smooth finish. Don't go so heavy that you remove the paint. Let's put that in there so I have all my whites together, okay? Now careful with this piece here. When I was putting mine together, I broke off one of these little lace pieces. I was able to glue it back together. That's the other thing, is if you accidentally do break something, most likely you can just glue it back together and nobody will ever know. So just take care. This piece is fragile, especially down here. So I'm just kind of using really light pressure and not getting too crazy with that. Now that all my white pieces are sanded, let's get that second coat on. I know it kind of sounds crazy, but I've already started thinking about next year's Mini Make It series. Obviously this first year is kind of a trial, and we'll see how it goes. And, you know, if you guys love it, hate it, it was meh, would be better type thing. We'll take a pull closer to, you know, next fall and when we really start thinking about it. But I'm kind of thinking that every year we switch it up to be a different type of insert or interchangeable. And I recently just painted this little snow globe. So the base is a snow globe, and then you can have pieces that sit in it, and they are so cute. I think that would be a fun one to do. But maybe we just continue creating inserts for the bases we have. I'm not sure yet. Feel free to drop your suggestions in the comments if you have any. I know it's still very early in this series, so don't feel like you have to have a suggestion or comment yet. I tend to just kind of get a little excited about it. I really like these little mini projects, and I really enjoy doing them. And I get excited to just kind of keep expanding on it. So no pressure, guys. No pressure to have a comment or a suggestion or thought on that. Just enjoy it for the time being. I'll touch base with you again the closer we get to the end of the series. Okay. Second coat on that, so let's bring over the green, I think is what I did next. Everything's already pretty much dry anyways. But yes, I am just loving the interchangeables, and I'm loving everything kind of small right now. When we first started our online store, we had big projects, you know, big door hangers, big signs, things like that nature. And as the years have gone by, everything's kind of shrunk. And I'm okay with it. I like the idea of smaller items. And I'm really thinking that's kind of where I'm going to niche down into is small projects because, well, I'm super busy. And the idea of doing something small obviously reduces the amount of time to do it. And I have a smaller house, and I like the idea of having small little pieces to decorate my house with. So everything's dry. The other thing then before I start gluing up is I am going to paint my stripes on my candy or my cupcake liner here. And then we can start gluing up, and then I'll add detail. You can add detail to the items before gluing up, however you want to do it. There's no right or wrong. I added a little water to my brush just to help my paint flow a little bit better. Some of the pieces, I better put my frame on there first. Okay, so when you're taking your lacy off of the tape, pull the tape away from the back. That's helpful too when dealing with tiny, intricate pieces, is pulling the tape away versus pulling the piece off the tape. I'm going to put this piece on first before the heart, otherwise I won't get it lined up. So we want to just make sure that all of our lacy loops are lined up, our scalloped edges are lined up along the outside here, and that we are lined up along this. This is where it sits at the bottom of the basket, so that's important that it's not hanging down that way. Okay. And then I'm going to put my heart there on top. I've already got the glue down. Give it a push. And then we have this, actually I think I'm going to hold off on putting this piece on. Well, no, we can put this piece on. Sometimes if I'm doing shadows, I like to have my pieces separated when I'm shadowing them, but not this case. All right, so I put the strawberries here. I made sure that this lined up, and then I went around and made sure this lined up, and then just double check it. So just double check everything as you're putting your pieces down. I kind of move it around and make sure that everything's lined up here. I'm a little off right there, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. As long as this piece here is good. All right, then we're gonna just kind of build our way up this way. So we're gonna put in the cupcake liner that sits around those strawberry pieces, nice and little detail there. And we've got the cupcake piece here. And then the frosting next. And then this little red heart is the seal for the envelope, so we'll glue that on. I've got the white heart that sits on top, the white heart candy that sits on top of the cupcake. And then we've got our greenery. Now I'm gonna hold off on gluing on the chocolate. Let's see. Because I want to add the seeds, and it will be easier to fill in those seeds if the chocolate's not there. Okay, so let's hold off on the rest of this while we add some details to our piece. Okay, to start out with, I'm going to get some black. And I'm going to paint my seeds real quick. I'm going to use a liner brush like this. And with the pointed side, I'm going to touch the top of the point on the seed and just push down. There's no brush stroke. There's no kind of swirling it around in there. It's really just getting the very tip of my brush to the tip of the seed top and pressing down. And that just kind of fills in that seed perfectly. We'll get those filled in. And we can get our chocolate on. There we go. All right. So I'm going to also work on these hearts before I put those hearts in. So we're just going to do all of our detailing now, and then we'll come in with our chocolate candies and our chocolate covered strawberries after we get all the details. So let's start at this box of chocolate. I'm going to change my brush here. And I've got some water in my bristles. I'm going to get a little of this brown, pull it off to the side. It's kind of watered down. And I'm going to go get some white and mix that together. What I'm creating is a super light brown or a creamy color. And I'm going to use that to create the shadows on my bow. So you can see that there's a score mark right there where the bow wraps around. So we're seeing the back of the bow there. We're here at the top on this little loop. I'm just going to make it a little darker. So kind of just play with those two colors until it's the darkness that you want. So I've got a little loop right there where we're seeing the back of it there. Then down here, we've got a little piece that we see the back of the loop. And then I'm going to take that color and go right around this loop here. Then I'm going to take my finger, it's clean here, I'm just going to set it down and brush it out. It kind of takes away any excess paint and softens it just a little. See if I can do this right here. So on this side of the bow, right in this area where these two loops sit on top of the band, that's going to be a shadow. So I'm going to bring in just a little bit of that brown, that creamy, super light brown. Then I'm going to put my finger on it and brush it out. And that just softens it, pulling away some of that excess paint and blending that in. Okay. And then down here under on the band between the tails, I'm going to leave that I'm not going to brush it away or blend it. I want that to be the darkest part because that's the part that is kind of being covered by everything. Then one last thing here, I am going to bring in just a little bit of color under this knot on the tail. And I just bring a line down to indicate that there might be a pleat there on the tail. So these shadows details are super light and super subtle and very soft, and it really makes a difference. Okay. The other thing then I want to do is bring in a shadow along the bottom of my box. And to do that, I'm going to use a baby wipe. I'm going to go back to my detail brush here, and I'm going to go back to this heart, and I'm going to grab the white and add some highlights along the top. So white is for your highlights. Just a little detail to that scalloped edge. Okay. All right, so then I'm going to go down here and using my white, when you're coloring in your white for your frosting, so in this case there's that piping of frosting on that chocolate, make sure that your paint is wet. I added a little water to it here. I dipped my brush in the water and I grabbed a little paint and I came out here and I created a watered down white. Paint that is a little loose flows and creates lines a little easier than if it was tacky. So this way, when I go in here, I'm going to try and just do it fast so I get a straight line. You get a nice flow, as opposed to if it's thick, it tends to bubble or create bulges. Let's see, where else am I at? Let's add a little highlight to my strawberries. I'm going to add some highlights to the tops of the strawberries there. And then to the top of my cupcake. And I'm going to turn this around so I can color in my sprinkles here. Alrighty, let's add a couple of fun whimsical dots. Just for fun. And then we're going to do our strawberries here. I forgot some detail lines. Let's add some detail lines here. I have a line on the outside of my frosting, kind of detail that, defining lines. Add a couple stripe lines here to define the stripes in those cupcake liner. And then let's add some lines to these hearts. It's going to help define them. I like to add the detail lines kind of on the bottom and my highlights on the top of things. We've got a detail line here. Just kind of wherever you think you need just a little extra if it's looking a little flat. I'm going to add a detail line here and here and here. All right. And then we're going to add the, ooh, I'm over. I didn't even see the time. I'm so sorry, you guys. It's because I talk too much. Okay. And then I'm just going to paint my hearts. Red. And there we go. All right, so now we can finish gluing everything up. Make sure everything's dry before you start gluing. So let's talk about the overlap here. These are just going to sit right on top and they're going to go past the line that sits on the basket. So instead of putting glue on here, I'm going to put glue here. That way I don't accidentally put glue that's going to touch the bottom of the basket. Okay. I'm going to put glue on this little spot here where this heart is going. Okay, and then these two hearts, like I said, I tucked behind. So I'm going to use this tag to help prop those up, this side up, and then I can kind of tuck these in and see where I want them. Okay. So they're a little different than what I originally did. Like I said, you could put them on top. But we're going to put those on the bottom or on the back side. So I'm putting a couple drops just on the bottom of those hearts. Kind of position them together. And then I'm going to set my piece on top there and press. And there we go. All right, then the last thing to do is once everything's glued up and ready, we are going to put our tag on. So I fold my string in half, take that folded piece and go through the front to the back. I'm going to open that loop up. I'm going to take these tails, put them through the loop, and give it a tug. And then I'm going to put a knot on the back side or on the end of the tails, and that's going to allow it to stop from falling through the area I put it in my basket. Kind of creates a stop there. So let's bring out the basket. Here we are. I'm going to set that kind of there right now. This is going to sit right here. And there we go. Your Valentine's sweets for my sweet basket insert. Have a happy January. Stay warm. Find time to craft. Find time to do things that are enjoyable to you. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to crafting with you next month. Talk to you later. Bye.